Mr. Raghavendra Mirji. He is presently positioned as Senior Vice President and Head Power Infrastructure and Renewable Energy Business, along with Busduct Business in the Electronics and Electricals Division of Godrej and Boyce. He is also an engineer holding a master's degree in business administration. He is a visionary leader and is instrumental in scaling up the T&D business for Godrej. His association with Godrej Group is since the last 2.5 decades, and he has been working in different businesses and different functions. Today, Mr. Raghavendra will talk about opportunities and challenges in the power T&D to meet the 500 gigawatts of renewable energy target by 2030. So delegates, let's welcome Mr. Raghavendra.
Very powerful talk in this power, talk that you actually mentioned. And Mr. Barve has enlightened the group with the latest kid in the street is solar, and there's no doubt about it. I would love to start what our honorable Prime Minister Shri Modi ji has actually mentioned as 5 Amrita Tattva in his speech during the COP26 at Glasgow in November 2021. And very clearly elaborated the intention of our country's commitment in actually achieving the net zero by 2070. And he also mentioned the ambitious target of advancing the renewable capacity, of achieving 50%, by 2030. And many intellectuals had debated earlier when we set up the target of achieving 40% of our total energy by 2030, and we have achieved this 8 years in advance. Probably we are underestimating the power of the entrepreneurs and people at large in India, how we can really take up this target. I was told by some analysts that India has a potential to reach 975 gigawatt of renewables. That's the potential. We are talking about 500 by 2030. I have no doubts in my mind that it can be achieved. Having said, you have given me a very challenging topic of mentioning the challenges of the solar. Everybody talks good about solar. Yes, not necessarily the T&D segment in specific, but then if you can allow me also little bit elaborate on the overall challenges in this journey that of achieving 500 gigawatt of renewables. Now coming back opportunities, I can see only the whole thing as an opportunity. Now India is a great, I would say, at advantage of leveraging this renewables in a great way. So we have abundant sun. We share this with very few countries in the world. Also, not many people have discarded the hydro, but I personally feel the capacity to expand hydro still exists as part of the renewable. In recent edition, government has added even the big hydro also in the renewable bracket. And then the northeastern states have a great potential. And if I can recollect it correctly, in the last 3 years, more than about 10,000 megawatt of power projects through hydro is already announced by the government. So there is a great, I would say, the potential to expand hydroelectric to the renewable arms. I'm very skeptical about wind. Probably, maybe lack of my knowledge. I may still comes from the solar, I would say, the fraternity. I'm not really commenting much on that, but then it has its very, very typical challenges, including the cost of installation, which is very, very challenging today, and the returns in question, whether it attracts the investors to an extent what it can attract the traditional fossil fuel generating plants as well as the solar plants. But leave that as it is. Coming back, the biggest opportunity is driven by the fact that India is today one of the lowest in terms of per capita consumption. In the recent reports, it's just about 1200 kilowatt hour. And if I have to tell you, the world average is 3,500 plus. So we have a huge potential to scale up the consumption, and that will clearly drive the requirement of the power. Now, look at the speed in which the urbanization is taking place. The mega cities build up, the metros, the malls, the commercial complexes, real estates, all these are putting, definitely will drive a huge demand for the power. Besides this, we are going great in electrifying the railways. The Union government has kept aside nearly 25,000 crores every year for the next 5 years or so. The National Infrastructure Pipeline, NIP, has earmarked about 111 lakhs crores in the next 5 years for the infrastructure. So that is led by the power in a big way. So investments coupled with the demand in the power are the huge opportunity for the renewables to expand. Now, why I'm saying renewable? Today, 395 gigawatt of installed capacity has to scale up to 700,000 plus. From where it is going to come? So many people talk about food security. So Megha, I would like to bring in an element that energy security is the need of hour. And every citizen of this country must understand we have a great import dependency on energy sources, be it oil, be it coal. So that really drives an alternate power methodology or a non-fossil green element apart from our conviction and focus on driving the green energy in the country. So food security, the energy security is most important to secure, and renewable is the mainstream to contribute in achieving for this country. So this is another opportunity. Now you talk about I talked about demand and the investment. Coming about the policy. So yes, we may criticize or can say many things that government has not done, but at the same time, we also should bring in the kind of policy supports also government has actually rolled out in the few years. 500 gigawatt of ambitious target is one aside. Recently, they have also announced the productivity linked incentives, production linked incentives, PLI, kept aside 4,500 crores for a high efficiency solar manufacturing. So we have already seen the big industrialists coming up upfront and putting up investments in this. Generating employment is definitely a different benefits altogether. And also, it is also attracting the FDIs in a big way. In a couple of years, it's almost $10 billion plus. And in the last decade or so, it is more than $40 billion investment, FDI investment, which has already come out. There are a lot of ease in terms of financing, a lot of subsidies in financing. I'm sure you're talking about RFO also, so like the RPO, which is also discussed at the parliamentary committee. So now these are the great opportunities as far as the renewable is concerned in T&D. Now, how T&D as a segment is going to be benefited? T&D segment will be benefited because with such a huge power commissioning coming up, the evacuation will drive a huge amount of infrastructure prospects for the transmission and distribution. So we have already seen government announcing 12,000 crores for a green corridors, including 7 states in the country. We have seen a dedicated Leh, Ladakh, dedicated corridors and the network being announced. So as it is in India, we are lagging behind the infrastructure as far as power is concerned. But the addition of renewable is only going to add up in a big way as far as T&D is concerned. Now coming, I also see an opportunity in terms of technological innovations. So we talked about hydrogen. It is coming up as a big storage element, is an opportunity to leverage. We also need to really think about a hybrid model. There are constraints in solar or a wind as a standalone. So in T&D I'm coming to the point on grid stability. To achieve this, we need to really look at the hybrid model, which is a great opportunity once again. Rooftop, I think Mr. Barve talked about. I like that thing that we are going reverse way. And in the Western, they actually started in a distributed solar in a big way, but then we are focusing more on utility. Probably that is not the right thing, because and it will create a lot of problems as far as network is concerned. So probably then again, and it's an opportunity for the government to really incentivize the rooftops in a big way to address this issue is also an opportunity. And not many people talk about off-grid solar, and we have excellent examples in a very remote areas, but we only talk about remote areas where we cannot really go and construct a transmission. But let's not talk about things that we have done out of constraint. So does that model really gives a benefit? Why can't we really think of an off-grid model in altogether in a way? So there are examples where this has been implemented in slums and given cheap power to the the people who are poor. This is a totally different perspective altogether. So well, these are all I feel are the very clear the opportunities as far as solar is concerned. Now coming back to the challenges. Now my basic question, rather worry or rather concern is, yes, it's good to have a target. Now out of 500, so even if you take 500 renewable, in next 8 years, if I have to complete, that means I have to add 50 gigawatt every year. So what have we done? We have done, except in 2020 of 12, the track record says we are at about 8. So jumping fourfold, how we are going to achieve this? So number one is the land parcel. Where is the land parcel availability? I was going through some of the report and I was shocked to see some of the estimates that to achieve the net zero kind of a target that we talked about in 2050 also, and the kind of renewables that we'll have to implement, or largely utility, we would be needing somewhere between 50,000 to 75,000 square kilometers of land, right? And this is for solar. And wind, you add another 15 to 20,000 square kilometer of land. Where are we going to come? I am a T&D person. Even for a substation of a few yards, we are struggling today to get a clear title. So the kind of system that we have in terms of litigations and other things, it's a big worry. Hence, it's an opportunity that government should really incentivize rooftops, because the buildings, government buildings and private infrastructure buildings are abundantly available, and then we should really utilize rather than focusing only on the focus on the land issue. Second thing is, we had the issue with China, and then we barred imports in the recent ALMM. We have completely eliminated those people. Look at what is the capacity in India. So we have roughly about 16 gigawatt every year, and then out of that maybe 4 or 5 gigawatt of cells. So where are we going to get if we have to implement 50 gigawatt, and out of that even solar, if you take say about 28-30 gigawatt? So how this is going to be possible to get? Yes, the new capacity addition under PLI is going to come, but it's going to take about a year or two. So the year or two, then if we miss the target, then it is going to be a huge issue for us to do it at the later stage. So that is the second point. The third point, from the T&D perspective, grid stability. No matter my friends may advocate the solar power in a big way, and rightly so, it is not yet proven in terms of its consistency and reliability. So it creates a huge problem in the grid stability. Secondly, we don't have a mechanism to forecast the demand, and abundantly people will just generate and suddenly push things to the grid, and then the grid comes in a big way and it shuts down. I'll close in a minute. So the grid stability is a big challenge. Then the DISCOM issues. Today DISCOM's debts is more than 1 lakh, and payability of a DISCOM is a big question mark, including the paying to the developers who are actually having a PPAs with them. Now, I can't really blame only on the DISCOM. No matter what governments did, even the Uday and other things didn't really allow. Effectively moved the DISCOMs out of their debts. Now, if this issue, that's the reason what Mr. Barve mentioned, the compliance to the PPA is a question mark. And Now, in this, even the net metering policy is paralyzed. So the DISCOM is losing the high-paying, high-tariff customer if they have to oblige to the net metering or to this kind of a system, and that's the reason systematically they are discouraging. So the issue is in the system. Now, at one end, I am saying I want to achieve so much, but our own internal systems are actually fighting against this. Is a very, very big concern, a very big challenge, I would say. Last thing, from the TNT perspective, lack of transmission network. So now we are talking about such a huge power generation from the system, how it is going to be evacuated unless until we have a green corridors, which will take dedicated lines, and then people can really push what amount of electricity generated doesn't matter, they can really do it. So we need to have, yes, we may have a sporadically some or other cases where it has come up, like some in Rajasthan, in Gujarat, we may have few cases, but it is not really as a policy or as a structured way of doing things. So concentrating and integrating the transmission system or the grid system is a very, very important agenda. So hence, transiting from a conventional power to the renewable power, though it sounds very, very good, attractive and things, but the doability at the ground remains really challenging, and a lot of things needs to be worked on. Thank you.